Oh, nice. You can see my screen. Great, great. Awesome. Insert stream marker, create highlight video. My god. They have changed it. Earlier I had to push to go live. Anyway, yep, yes, you can see. Day off today. No, it's actually day of learning at Microsoft. So I decided to learn Redux. If you don't know, maybe you don't follow me on Twitter. So I will show you. I tweeted about it. Every month, one Wednesday, we have day of learning. You can pick up anything you want to learn. So Redux. Today I am going to relearn that. Answered your question. Hello. Give me 1 second. So here's what we're going to do. We'll just pop out the chat so that it stays on the corner, and then we'll start learning Redux. Do I have Visual Studio Code? Let me quit it. Let's try Redux. So to start with Redux, we'll go to reduxjs.org. Here you go. Almost done. Then okay, Ion is saying he has learned Redux already. This site called, because it's redux.js.org, I guess. See, 3 years and I still remember the website. Okay, so what it says: predictable, centralized, debuggable, flexible. Thank you, Kavya. Other libraries from Redux team: React, Redux, Redux Toolkit. Okay. Cool. So let's get started. How do we get started? Why is this so big? Get started with Redux. Redux is installation for writing Redux logic, contains store setup, reducers, immutable update logic. Okay, create a Redux app, npx create React app, my app, template Redux. Okay. Okay, stored in an object tree inside a single store, create store, function counter. This feels so at home. Okay, store.subscribe, store.dispatch, store.type, mutating the state directly. This is something which I did long time back. I think it would be here somewhere. Let me see. Redux. See Redux without tantrums. When was this? 2016. My god. So this what is showing it here, right? I did this this entire thing. Okay, it's the code. So website master, see, create the empty app on master, then add action, then add reducer, then create store, some more functionality. So let's see the final app on branch 5. I've seen it. You are writing a book on React.js. Yes, and that's the plan. It's not working out though. So here is what I was doing in 2016. Add item, remove item. This is my own code to understand Redux. Add item, remove item, creating the store, and then this is like a vanilla JavaScript render. Items dot reduce. Okay, nice. Subscribing the changes to store, calling render on store change, store dot subscribe render. This is really nice. Actually, what this is trying to do is there's a render function, which is like a React render function, but is not a React render. It's a vanilla JS render, and every time there's a store change, I render the entire thing again, and then changing previous code to dispatch actions on click instead of changing the value itself. Okay, so whenever there is a click on the add button, it does a store dot dispatch and then function remove from list. Wow. So basic Redux stays the same in after 4 years as well. Give me 1 second. There are too many notifications on my phone. I don't know who is bringing me so much. Okay, so the basic how to read documentation effectively. As a fresher or a beginner, we always jump to blogs and tutorials. So my idea is that always go with documentation, because the person who is writing the doc is like knows how you should approach this entire learning. If it's not clear in the first go, maybe try once or twice again. Tutorials and blogs are also okay, but I prefer documentation because then it's so the thing with documentation is now it's changed in 4 years, right? But there was a time when I knew every part of documentation of Redux. So whenever I have to refer something, I can just go through documentation. So docs have everything. It's like a book, right? So you can always refer a book when you are in trouble. Okay, so this is what it's doing. It's trying to do a counter and it dispatches. This is without React. Cool. So the basic things in Redux are same. You have the same idea wherein you dispatch something on the store, which is called an action, and then you subscribe to this store. In React, you subscribe to this and re-render this tree. You create a store. Store is nothing but a reducer with a state. What is a reducer? It's a pure function which takes a state and an action and gives you next state. Cool, cool. So Redux stays same in last 4 years. Like the basic is there. Okay, Redux creator free, getting started with Redux video series. Actually, this was really nice. I learned from this getting started with Redux. It's old, but it's really good. And this one also. This I did this like learned this video when I didn't know anything about React, and some of the basic things I learned from this videos. The this talks about React router. I remember long time back when I was starting with React. Redux fundamentals, complete React Redux tutorial for beginners, other resources. Okay, let's see here. Redux Toolkit includes the React core as well as other key packages. Redux core to install stable version. Is my voice clear? Most commonly, people consume Redux as a collection of common JS modules. Okay, fine. Complementary packages, React Redux, Redux DevTools. Cool. Thank you, Arshit. Create a React Redux app. Good, 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 good. There will be some noise because this is this is morning time and my society is very active, even though it's Corona. So if you hear some noise, pardon me for that. Okay, so motivation, not going to read it, too much work. Core concepts. Imagine your app state is described as a plain object. For example, yep, this is the okay. To change something in the state, you need to dispatch an action. Okay, so let's take some notes for you, not for me, for you. So let's go to say notes. Oh, this notes is too much. I need some markdown note taking. You open over React. Sure, we'll take notes later. No, now, don't know. Okay, so if you want to change something in the state, you need to dispatch an action, which this is an action. Okay, it has a type. And it has some data. Very nice. So Cool. And then described as an action lets us have a clear understanding of what's going on in that. This is very important. This is what I miss in MobX actually. Thing anything can change anything, and then when you are debugging or you're trying to read to understand what's happening, it's very difficult actually. If something changed, we know why it's changed. True. Actions are like breadcrumbs of what has happened. Finally, to tie state and actions together, we write a function called reducer. Very nice. Nothing magical about it. It's just a function that takes state and action as an argument and returns the next state of the app. Very nice. What this means is you have a function, give it a state and an action, and it will give you the next state. So we write smaller function managing parts of the state. Okay. Action dot index equals index. One thing which I see is state dot concat. So there are a few things to remember when you are doing Redux. Okay. Learncodingfree.org, github.tanepratap. Learn coding free. Yes, we'll take notes here. Issues. So every time we try something, we take notes. So we'll take notes here. This time we are exploring Redux in 2020 and notes for the session. So few things to remember when doing Redux is the reducer is a pure function, which means that when you get an action, see this action here, right? When you get an action, you do state.concat, you add into the array. State is an array here, okay? And then you concat, you don't do state.push. So what state.concat does is it returns you. Why song is playing? Where is a song playing? I don't see a song playing. Is a song playing? Okay, I'm not playing any song, by the way. What was I saying? Okay, so state is an array, and then you have state.concat. Why is this not state.push? This is state.concat because it will give a new state after every change. If you see here also we do state.map, which will give a new. It's playing. Bunny, I don't have a. Maybe it's playing in your side. Is anybody else having listening the song instead of Bunny? No. Bunny, are you trying to disturb this? Should I block you? Let me block you. Remove. Put user in timeout. $300. 5 minutes. If you do these things, 5-minute timeout. Where was using create slice would be better option. Eon, don't jump things for me. I don't know what create slice is right now. Yeah, we'll figure it out. And we write another reducer that manages the complete state of our app by calling these two reducers. Okay, this is basically the whole idea of Redux. Very nice. So I know what the whole idea of Redux is. The whole idea of Redux is you take state, you pass it an action, you switch on action type and do whatever you want to do with the action dot text. Cool. Action dot type. Every time you switch on action dot type or do an if else on action dot type, and then do what you want to do on the data inside it. Okay, cool. So now 3 principles. Let's see what 3 principles. Single source of truth. Cool. Yes, Redux, when Redux gained popularity, it gained popularity because you would have one state. So it makes it easy to create universal app, can be serialized and hydrated into the client with no extra coding effort. This is tough to explain right now. Basically, it says that when you have an isomorphic app, basically wherein you do a React rendering on server, it's easy because you have all the state in hand, so you can rehydrate it very easily on the client. Easier to debug or inspect an application. True. Yeah, I know, Yon. There is a tutorial. It's here basically. Basic tutorial. If you go here, you will see create slice, or I think in advanced tutorial. Undo redo, for example, can suddenly become trivial to implement. Yes, if all your state is stored in a single tree. Makes sense. State is read only. Emit an action and object describing what happened. So there are three things, right? One is three principles, single source of truth, state is read only, changes are made with pure functions. Sometimes you write pure reducers. Yes. Reducers are just pure functions, remember, because cool. Okay, this makes sense. Prior art, learning resources, ecosystem, learning resources. Let's see learning resources. Redux, building React applications. This is again dance, time travel, crash course with React, cartoon guide to Redux. Yeah, I'm interested in this. Leveling up with React, an introduction to Redux, Redux tutorial, from Twitter hype to production, introduction to Redux. What is a cartoon guide? ये क्या cartoon? There is no cartoon in this. These are just drawings. Ah, I like this. Okay, okay, good. Don't want that. So using React with Redux, why Redux is useful in React apps. My God, there are so many resources because it's an old project. So you will see a lot of things. But what I liked was, I think there was a tutorial here. Usage with React, to-do list, async flow. I think there was, where is it in Redux toolkit? Let me see. He's saying it's not in the docs. That's why I mentioned later you should check Redux toolkit doc as well. Is it? It's not in the doc. So I remember reading it. Twitter at Tanai Redux. Learning Redux form. Oh, 2016. David mentioned. I don't even remember this. Mm. 2018. I had one, but I don't know matrix. Maybe one of my replies are there. +1 for using Redux toolkit. See, the problem with toolkit is then you will use toolkit. We can try toolkit. Let's see first what the tutorial is. Data flow, actions, and add to do, build my first Redux app, import add to do, toggle action creators. In traditional Flux, invoke like so. Dispatch, actually share dispatch pass, bound add to do, source code, visibility filter, add to do. Next step, define some reducer. This is pretty simple, but for someone who doesn't know Redux, it would be difficult. Handling actions. Good thing is that it's more or less same, so nothing much has changed. I think what this Redux toolkit has just made this writing it easier. Object assign, handling more actions, store. Wait, I want to see usage with React. Still valid, these pages on the oldest parts of our docs. We'll be updating this soon to improve our explanation. Redux Essentials tutorial, since it covers the key points you need to know about how to get started using Redux to write actually. Okay, Redux app structure, basic Redux data flow, using Redux data, performance and normalizing data. Is this the one where they use something like uh, counter? So this is the basic of, this is not just the basics of Redux basically. This is basics of React as well. Like, you, instead of say actions, you have events, and events trigger state changes, and state changes re-trigger view, and then this goes on. And the same thing is in Redux as well. Immutability, if you don't know what it means, is it means that it it's so the official thing is it can never be changed, but the idea is that whatever data you want to change, you change that data and produce a new version of it instead of updating the old version. Actions, creators, reducers, we have covered all of this. Not good tutorial. Let's see, basic tutorial, advanced tutorial. There is, so you guys are telling me to look into Redux toolkit. Let's see. Official opinionated batches included toolset for efficient Redux development. Okay. Standard way to write Redux logic. Comment that you use it. Purpose, documentation, quick start tutorial, basic. Oh, there are other tutorials on Redux toolkit. Achha, that's why. Writing a counter application. This I'm not interested in. In the basic tutorial, saw the main opinion, some short examples of why and how to use them. Saw that you can use Redux and RTK from a plain JS script tag in an HTML page without using Redux. Those APIs in small React app. We are going to convert the original Redux to do example app using. Okay. Creating the to-do slice. Right now the to-do's code is split into two parts. The reducer logic is, while the action creators are in a larger app, you might even see the action type constants in their own file. Place those create reducer, and the create slice function allows to consider logic in one place. It uses create reducer steps, you won't need to use them yourself. Achha, okay. Okay, what is a slice anyway? Okay, a normal Redux application has a JS object at the top of its state tree, and that object is the result of calling the Redux combined reducer function. Yes, one key value of that object is a slice, and we use this term slice reducer to describe. Oh, this is new. This is new. Combined reducers. The app reducer of the combined state looks like is a slice, and this is what we used to do. Examining the original to-do's reducer handles three cases. It adds a new to-do, it handles toggling, yes, it handles toggling, and it handles add. And responds to all other by existing state. Basically merges many operations into one functions. Yeah, it's like a utility they have written over the old way of doing thing. Acha, so this is basically they are making it simpler for beginners, isn't it? Like, don't have to learn a ton of things or write tons of things. Okay, let's see. We'll start by adding a new file called to do slice. Okay, to do slice, create slice, name is to do's, initial state, reducers. What is this? What is this now? This is add to do, and if you have add to do, you have state, and what is this? Check under using toolkit. We'll check. What is this? What the to do slice dot actions? To do slice dot actions, but we did not define to do slice. This is something which I liked about Redux. There was no magic. Now there is magic in Redux as well. How did this come? Janil says I just joined now. Hi Janil, we are just exploring the docs. We haven't written single line of code till now. Just trying to understand what they have done to Redux in last 3 4 years. So it does this run when an action of the type to do add to do is dispatched. Okay, so how do you dispatch? Similar toggle to doesn't map over the array or copy the matching to do object. Matching to do object. That's a side effect. RTK simplifies a lot of the configuration boilerplate that needed to be done for just about every part of Redux, making it easier for beginners is a side effect. Yeah, true. Hmm. Thing is, now you have to learn 5 more things and create slice, and I don't know what else. Exploring the slice function. So you create slice in an object that looks like this: name, reducer. Acha. So it creates an action, and then you take the actions. So this is basically what a function. You give an object, it gives you a you give an object, it gives you an object, and the object which it gives is basically this object: name, reducer. Okay, name is fine. Reducer, state, action, new state, actions, and case reducers. Now what is case reducer? What is this? Add to type payload. Notice that it auto generated the appropriate action creator functions and action types for our reducer. We don't have to write those by hand. Wow, like this was too much work. Okay, we'll need to use this action creators and the reducer in other files. So at a minimum, we will need to export the slice object. Okay. However, we can use a Redux community code convention called the Dux pattern. Simply put, it suggests that you should put all your action creators and reducers in one file, do named exports of the action creators and a default export of the my god. Thanks to create slice, we already have our action creators and reducer right here in one file. All we have to do is export them separately, and our to do slice file now matches the common Dux pattern. Yeah. Is anyone noting down the links? Links is okay. Let me. Good point actually. Add new tab, duplicate. So there was one link which we were looking into. Redux.js. Let me create this issue so that you guys can comment on the issue with the links. This is the main link where we are keeping all the notes. Thank you, Janil, for this was wherein I was looking into something which I created in 2016 to understand Redux better. This is like a tutorial kind of thing wherein you go from one branch to other branch and then see what the changes are. These are my notes from first time learning Redux. So this is there. You can check this out or put it there. And then we went to redux.js.org and then we went to get started and looked into these. Yes, we looked into core concepts, we looked into 3 principles mostly. These are the things which we were looking at. Okay, so the old Redux thing, this is what I know, this is what supposedly people are using these days. Cool. Let's see. Okay, so thanks to create slice, we already have our action creators and the reducer. Okay, how do you use this in code? How do you use it in code later in a test? This makes testing easy. Okay, no problem. To do IDs, ID, add to do. My god, now to do create action. Okay, create slice. Using the new to do slice, you do what? Import to do's reducer from features to do slice. This is headache. Combine reducers, updating the add to do component, update add to do, set to do, set to do text, connect, add to do. What is add to do equals? Add to do is this use state, to do text, set to do text. Why is this being used here? Set to do text. Why would you use okay, this is confusing. Why would you use hooks inside Redux? Because this is not pure. What it's doing is it's clearing the form on submit and it's going and adding the to do here, like two things to manage the state. I don't like this tutorial. I mean, this is okay, yes, we should do this, but this is very confusing for people who are new. Like, you don't need this, right? You can just listen to the state in the reducer itself, but then managing the reducer from top is also a problem for small things. Good, okay. From map dispatch to simplify passing the action creators to connect. Okay, map dispatch equals add to do. So this is the thing with Redux. This has always been the thing with Redux, that you have to understand a lot many things to use it. So what have we covered till now? We have covered that we need to use slice now instead of say combine reducer and create reducer, and then from slice, okay, your actions will be created. Good for us. Your actions will be created from the slice, and then from the actions, if you want to use those actions like this, like add to do, you put it into a map dispatch. Map dispatch, when you do connect to map dispatch with add to do, this is your view layer, right? What happens with this, let me tell you what is happening here. If you don't know what Redux is doing, is basically this is an HOC, and what this is doing is it's passing add to do, the action, as a prop. So this is why here you can retract or get add to do as a prop. Otherwise, this add to do is this action from the to do slice which you have passed to map dispatch, and then connected this map dispatch to this add to do view layer. So this is the gist of React plus Redux. So if you were using just Redux, you would use add to do and then just dispatch actions on it. But if you want to use it with React, you have to use this map dispatch and then use the map dispatch with connect. This is little bit changed. Earlier we used to do a little differently. Same thing, yeah, not much, but I remember we used to write this here. I think that's the thing. Like have your view layer, and then whatever the view layer needs it to be written here. But mostly it is still the same thing. If someone don't want to use create slice, there are standalone functions in this create reducer and create action. Yes, add to do is just a functional component. You are connecting your Redux store. Yes, you are connecting. That's the right word. You are connecting. But the point is that what you are doing here is, in plain, if you know React, in plain React term, is you're passing add to do as a prop to a component. Add to do action to add to do component. That's all you are doing, and nothing else. So you're passing that prop, and to pass that prop, you have to do map dispatch and connect two things. Why do you have to do map dispatch? Because then it will be passed as a prop. Why do you have to do connect? That is what is going to pass it as a prop. Like when you do map dispatch, you get only this action. You don't get all the actions as to do. Like we created other actions from to do slice, right? But those actions won't, like if you try to access those actions here as to do, add to do, comma, say toggle to do, it won't be here. If you want to add toggle to do, you have to add to do also. Cool. Updating the to do list, visible to do list, toggle to do, const map dispatch. See, if you want to do toggle to do, then you have to map that. Writing the filter slice, visibility filter, show all. Okay. So one thing which good it's all coming back now. So one thing which Redux does is if you want to use constants like strings, you don't use it directly. You define a constant for it and then you use those constants so that it tries to basically make it consistent so that if you change it at one place, it will reflect at every other place. Like suppose if you're doing just show all and if you change it in one place, it will be a problem in other places. So that's why people love like Redux, and it's good for beginners also, is because it tries to enforce these best practices uh, when you're writing code. So you take these practices a long way. But you see how many things you have to learn. Like you have to do the create slice, map dispatch, connect, const, pure functions. Uh, so when someone is just beginning, and then action dispatch, they have to learn a lot of things to understand what Redux is doing. Good revision though. Using the filter slice, if you want to do use the filter slice, all you have to do is visibility filter reducer from visibility filter reducer. Okay, cool. Use the new filter actions in the UI. Okay, on click, set visibility filter with filter link dot prop types. Okay. So now you are getting this set visibility filter, which is an action from features filters filter slice, and you're getting it as a prop. Optimizing the filtering. Convert visible to do's to a memoized selector. This is advanced stuff. We don't need this now. But if you want to do it, you do create selector, throw new, return to do's, map state, RTK, and define a couple one line selector function that grab the to do's and visibility. My god. So to do something like this, you did what? Get visible to do, switch const select state dot to do's dot visibility filter. So wait, I didn't understand this. Redux apps commonly use library called reselect, which has a create selector function that lets you define memoize selector function. These memoize selectors only recalculate values if the inputs have actually changed. Okay. So in from the toolkit, so your toolkit now has a lot of magic inside. So when earlier when you used to do Redux, we didn't have this function handy, so we had to do memoization ourselves and write a lot of code. But now a lot of logic has gone inside. I think there's some immer uses also in Redux these days. Immer in Redux, my god. I'm wondering whether this is the right choice for someone who is beginning to, it's just beginning. Immer, yeah. Immer would be in practice, yes. So It's good. Like knowing Redux is now even more. I don't know whether it's easy or difficult because now you have a lot many things to understand when you're starting. Create selector is really helpful. Someone don't want to use create slash, yeah, cleanup. That's the end of the actual conversion work. We now have a bunch of no longer being used, so we delete those. Cool. In the intermediate tutorial, you saw how to use in typical basic React app. Okay, in this one, you how to use Redux toolkit as part of a larger real world app. My God, and bigger than a to-do list example. So plain React app to use Redux, async logic, how to use async logic like data fetching. This is my interested in. How to use RTK with TypeScript. Nice, nice, nice. Redux toolkit. Redux toolkit. Still doing the same thing. Just making it easy, right? Converting into the issues, thinking into thunks, fetching repo. Redux would be like if I start teaching Redux to beginners, it would be like a 20-hour course or something because there are too many things. If you have understood, it feels very easy, but if you have not, then my God, now how will I explain thunks? What is a thunk? Is completely synchronous. When you call, the store runs the root reducer, saves the return value, runs the subscriber callbacks. Any synchronicity has to happen outside. But what if you want to have async logic? Execute extra logic, pause, modify, delay. Example thunk function. Thunks allow us to write reusable logic that interacts with the Redux store but without needing to reference a specific store instance. My God, seriously, I shouldn't do this, but just check this. How easy it is to get started with MobX, like 5 concepts. Don't even need like 100 of things. Thunks, explain thunk, explain toolkit. Like just to do a fetch, you have to understand thunk and many other kinds of replacement and add async completeness, Redux Saga, Redux Observable. Okay, while Saga, you do not need. Oh, so in thunks we have a toolkit. Okay, good. This is nice. To add any special function, lol. What is the point? In particular, they cannot be defined as part of the create slice call. You have to write them separate from the reducer logic. Nice, very nice. Thank you so much. Thunk action. Oh, so now TypeScript has also come inside. Who would create an intermediate tutorial without a fetch? Because I don't know what kind of web app works without a fetch. And then in the advanced tutorial, introduce TypeScript before introducing fetch. My God, seriously, Mark. Lot of feedback here for you. You want to why would you introduce TypeScript before introducing thunk? I mean, just confusing beginners. They don't need TypeScript to use Redux or to do a fetch call. Okay, so this is it. This is good. Let's see what they are doing with the thunk here. Fetching repo details in the issue list. Okay, logic for fetching. What is the logic? Sport app thunk action. Create slice repo, get repo details, success. Okay, state dot failed. Cool, but where is that logic? Repo details, get repo details. Where is this? Wait, get repo details. Do you know where this is? Reviewing the thinking in thunks. Get repo details. Where is it? Where is this? This my gone like that tutorial. Okay. Okay, where is the get repo detail? Example thunk, okay. Dispatch. Did writing thunks. Did I miss something? Setting up the Redux store? No. Issues display, converting the issues list page, creating the initial state slices, converting the main. Where is this? Wait. So what is the name for this? I don't see this. Do you know where this is? Where is the U API call? This API call API slash GitHub API get repo details. This is the second time. Oh wait, this is the first time it's being used. Achha. So if you're doing it in hooks, you would do it like this: repo details, await, get repo details, org, repo, set num issues. Okay, so this is not defined. It's just like, oh my god, so he has defined this component with TypeScript. Okay, got it. So suppose for our understanding right now, if you are listening still, I don't know if anyone is there. Is anyone there? Ah, there are people. So suppose this is a API call which gets details of repo. Okay, this is just a GitHub API call. Don't worry about what it is, how it is. In that case, what you are doing is you are creating reducers. You are creating reducers which for success and for failed. Makes sense. What happens here is when the API is successful, you want the state.error to be null, and then you want the open issues count to be this. Okay, and if it has failed, then open issues count is -1, and the error is the error, right? Um okay, so fetch issues count equals app thunk try repo details await get repo details org repo. So now you have this, and see, so what this is doing, this is just a basic function, right? This is no there's no redux here. What it is doing is this, not this part is just a basic function. So let's try to understand this. This is interesting actually. So what this part is trying to do is it is trying to get a get repo details, that API call, and whenever the repo details come, it's calling this function repo details get repo details success. But to call this action, this is just an action, right? Nothing else, because we saw in create slice these things create actions, these names to reduces, this create actions, right? So even if you can see here, these are repo details dot actions, get repo detail success, get repo detail fail. So what this function from here, these are two functions, by the way. This is one function, and this is the second function. These are two functions here curried. Okay, so what this is trying to do here is it wants to call this function. Hey, I have the data. This was a successful call. Why don't you update the main state? Okay, this is what it is trying to say. I want to update the main state, but to update the main state, you need a dispatcher. So you get a dispatcher here. Okay, how we are getting this dispatch, we'll find out soon. But so you get a dispatch as an argument, and so you dispatch on success and you dispatch on failure. This is the first part of this should look straightforward. Down at the bottom we have our first data fetching thunk. The important thing to notice here are thunk is defined separately from the slice. Yes, we declare the thunk action created an arrow function and use the app thunk type we just created. Type wipe they should not have introduced now, but that's fine. We use the async await syntax, that is also fine. Inside the thunk we dispatch the plain action creators that were generated by create slice call. So what, see exactly whatever we created with create slice call, basically these two actions, just a revision here, we are using those actions. How is this getting a dispatch? How is this getting dispatched? This fetch issues count is the only thing which I want to understand now. So we'll see where we are using fetch discount now. Fetch issues count. Okay, so the first time we use fetch issues count is here. Now next time we use is fetch issues count is here. Third time we use, there is one potential flaw with the thunk as written. It will catch any errors thrown by this. Yes, it will also catch any error that occur inside the dispatch of end up. This may not be desired way to handle. Dispatch is very abstract here. I'll explain Janil. Give me 1 minute. I'll explain the dispatch thing. So basically, this is why I wanted you guys to be live so that you will ask questions. Thank you. So dispatch is nothing but basically it's a way to send an action to the store. Dispatch in English, what does dispatch mean? Like if you do dispatch meaning, what it says, send off to a destination or for a purpose, right? So what dispatch does in Redux is it sends off an action to the store, to the reducer, and then reducer can act on it. So if you see this, thank you again for asking this question. If you see this, this is the reducer, right? For get repo detail success. So when it is invoked, when this action is invoked, it will set the error as null and it will set the open issues count. And when this is failed, it is invoked, it does this thing. So to change the state, you need to send an action. And how to send an action? To send an action from anywhere else, anywhere in the code, from React or from a different function, you need dispatch. Now my next question is, how is fetch issues count getting this dispatch? Okay, I have forgot about this. I knew how it was. One potential flow. Did I answer your question, Janil? So import fetch issues count, const dispatch equals use dispatch, fetch issues count. So it's basically putting dispatch on fetch issues count. How is this working? Import the new and rewrite the component to read the open issues count value from the Redux store. Inside our use effect, we drop the fetch issues count function. Yes. And dispatch fetch issues count instead. So what it did was this fetch issues count also became an action. How is this working? I don't understand this. I don't understand this. How is this working? So if you dispatch on a thunk, you still get a dispatch inside it. But if you dispatch an action, the store runs. Is that what's happening? Because the only time, so what is happening is, what's happening is basically, if you see this as, you have a function called get data, and then from the view you are doing dispatch get data, and then inside the get data you are getting dispatch again. How is that happening? That I don't know. Fetch issues count equals this, fetch issues count from const dispatch equals use dispatch, right? And then when you do this dispatch with fetch issues count, this function, this dispatch function, not the reducer itself, yes, inside a component. So this function calls fetch issues count with a dispatch. Okay, cool, I can live with this, no problem. Let's read. We drop the logic for fetching issues for a repo, issue slice, issue state, start loading, loading failed, create slice. get issues success, get issues success. Okay, const again fetch issues. This is thunk, this is dispatch, and it dispatches get issue start. So if I'm using fetch issues now, again I would use const app equals to use dispatch, and then yes, use dispatch, and then you have to dispatch that issue. Issues. See here, fetch issues. So now I'm getting the hang of it. So if you want to do an API call from your component, then you have to do these two things. You have to use dispatch, and then you have to fire the API wherever you want to fire the API, like this. Phew, so till now, how many things have we learned? So let's do a revision. So we learned there is now a create slice, and there is a create selector. These are the new things. Obviously, things we learned. Is dispatch something like notifying components on change of data? Yes, so here what we are doing is we are doing two kinds of dispatch. One dispatch is an action dispatch, wherein if you dispatch an action, it goes and changes the state. To dispatch that, you don't have to do anything. You have to do a connect. Let me check once whether we are doing a connect here or not. I don't see a connect here. Yes, we don't have a connect here. We have a use dispatch and use selector. Okay, so again, coming back, by the way, this is just an exploration for me also right now, is there are two kinds of dispatch. So the first kind of dispatch is dispatch an action. So you can just dispatch an action using connect and map dispatch. So this was one thing which we saw earlier, and then there is another thing wherein you dispatch a thunk, and in this case you pass a fetch call. Yes, pass a function which will do the service call or fetch call, and this function will get dispatch as an argument. Yes, it will get dispatch as an argument. So if you are learning something new, maybe you can learn this from me. Is what I do is when I see something, I try to write it in my own words. I try to talk about it. Now I have got you guys, but when I didn't have you, I used to talk about it to my wife, and I used to explain these concepts to her. So when you start explaining things, when you're learning something new, it helps you. Also writing helps you. So pass a function which will do the fetch call, and this function will get dispatch as an argument, wherein this dispatch will then be used to call the actions on store, right? Exactly what this is what is happening here. Now let me explain this again one more time. So what it does is it let's go back to the top one, this one. Oh, no, yes, this is too much complex. Let's do this one. So if you see this, right, what it does is it dispatches fetch issues count, right, and it dispatches this function, and the fetch issues count here, where is it? Here, fetch issues count, it just gets a dispatch. And what is fetch issues count doing? It is doing two things, right? First thing it's doing is it's getting the data, and then second thing it's doing is it's calling the function, the actions to update store with this data. You see this? And to update the store, it needs a dispatch. So all thunk is doing is nothing but giving you a dispatch so that when the async call has happened, it comes back and updates the data, taking it out of the store, taking it out of the reducer. Still in the reducer, this part is still in the reducer, but calling it as an action is not synchronous. So what we do is we call this, we don't update the store, we update the store only when there is data in hand. Good question. Good. Nobody asked this question, but we. So I'm saying my mind only. I'm saying it's a good question. So what if so this all right, wherein you want to, you are showing the. Hold on. 1 second. Yeah. So if you see this logic, this has two states, right? This is has a success state and this has a failed state. But what if you wanted to show a loading state also, right? If you wanted to show a loading state, what you could have done is you could have this had like a get details loading action, and you could have added it here, dispatch get details loading. What they should have done is they should have put it in code sandbox so that people can just use it from here anyway. So so there are two ways to do a loading, right? Either you do a loading here when you are calling it, you know that it will go into a loading state, so you can say here, hey, we are loading. Or we can do a loading inside fetch issues count. What is fetch issues doing? Fetch issues, I don't even see a fetch issues as imported. Port fetch issues, get issues, anyway. So you can do loading, success, failure, all three states, and you can dispatch all three states. So now I have understood this. Is dispatch something like, okay, so I have answered this question, long failed, create slice, questions, more questions, fetching issues in the issue list. So this is what it is doing. It's basically, thunk is nothing but trying to get data asynchronous in an asynchronous way, but updating it in a synchronous way. Because if you see here, this update is a synchronous update, right? Both these updates are synchronous. It just goes and updates the state. So it's very smart way of doing thing. Okay, so converting the issue details page. Now what? Logic for fetching, converting the issue details page. That's it. Fetching the issue comments. That's the same thing. They're trying to fetch it multiple times, but this is it, nothing else. This is what it is. And so what we have covered is basically thunk middleware will only always grab non-generic actions which is not an object but an action creator function which creates a JS object, and then add dispatch functionality to it. My god, basically thunk middleware will only always grab a non-generic actions which is not an object but an action creator function which returns a JS object. I don't know what this means. Yes, too tough for my little brain. Vivek, what thunk is doing is nothing but I don't know what grab non-generic actions is. It basically, it is used to update the state asynchronously. I don't know where this non-generic action means. What actions which is not an object but an action creator function which returns a jar. No, I don't see this how this fits. Maybe there's a signal loss in the chat. Okay, so this is what Redux is, and this is what Redux Toolkit is. What have we covered? We have covered create slice, create selector. This is all in Redux Toolkit RTK. We understood dispatch, we understood action, how to change the action with reducer. Basically this is what Redux is. So if you have to summarize what Redux does, is Redux takes so we did actions, then we understood what a reducer is, then we looked into map dispatch, so that mapping. Okay, we also looked into dispatch, we looked into actions, we looked into dispatch, then we did map dispatch, wherein we map an action to a dispatch, and then we looked into connect, wherein we map a map dispatch to a component. So this is where React component, React plus Redux happens. Then we started looking into Redux Toolkit. Then there are two kinds of dispatch we looked into. Dispatch simple one, first we looked into this one, then we into two kinds of, then we looked into create slice. Why am I creating this node? Because when I have to, so there's something called spaced repetition. If you're learning something new, after few days you should look into what you learned, so that your brain tries to remember it, and then you will remember it. So create slice, create selector, dispatch, all of these things we learned about thunk, wherein inside the thunk we have use dispatch, like a state hook. Anything else? That's it, right? We didn't cover anything else. This is what it is. Create slice, we talked about how we would create loading, success, and error states inside React. So this, why I talked about loading was that suppose you would see some of the apps have a loader here on the header, right? So anytime you click on something, it starts a loader here on the header. I did that once for one of my freelancing projects. To do that, what we did was, anytime you would like pass a thunk, like use a thunk, you would set is loading true, and whenever the is loading is set true, the header component will start showing the loader. So in those cases, when you want a uh, um, app wide loader, which is there in say Twitter and all, in those cases Redux is very useful. So I wanted to just check on that. Anything else? No. So this covers Redux, at least the concept wise. Comment. Nice. So these are the things we learned. Now what next? Next we will make an app with all of these concepts, but I have to think whether we want to use the Redux toolkit for this, or I want to do basic Redux first and then try and do the Redux toolkit. For that we'll meet in some time. For now, this class is dismissed. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll look into how we can use this in an app very soon. Bye bye. Tata. Any questions? If there are any questions, I will wait for a minute on the chat and I can answer it, and then I'll close it. Fetching the issue moments, GitHub repo, very nice. Using guide. Unopinionated. Yes, the Redux. Like a break. Yeah, it's like a break. Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I'm coming back today, but mostly yes. I want to use this in an app, get my hands dirty. This was like more of an understanding thing. Manual store setup, from configuring a store page in a typical setup process. I want to try this, the store setup, and then it has been long since I've written Redux, so I want to write some Redux, uh, dispatch some actions from the components, write a reducer. um, all of this I want to do. So that is the next part. Create reducer. Yes, this is what I want to do. Defining functions and objects. So that's the next thing. Why to use Redux for state management and not hooks? This is asked in an interview. That's a good question. So if you use hooks, if you do global state management with it, it will be difficult, because then you have to use context, and with context the problem is that anytime anything in the child changes, it re-renders the entire app, so it's not very performant that way. um, to explain this, I have to explain hooks, context, and then Redux. But I'll try to cover this sometime. Sir, generally people advise that don't use a so fresh. Tanvi is asking, so freshers should use Redux or not? Tanvi, I think we can use Redux. No problem with that. Once we have tried covering the basic concepts, like if you see this. Oh, thank you, Jaini. So once you have understood this, and once you have seen people using it, and you start using it, it will become very obvious, to be honest. uh, but it takes some time to wrap your head around so many things at once, and even to get the basic thing started, you need to create a slice, at least a slice, and then thunk and all of that. But we'll cover all of this. So to give you one answer is that if you don't use Redux, then it would be like, if you don't know one, like at least Redux, it would be tough for you to crack interviews or work in a big product app, because any app which is more than like a to do app or little bit bigger would start using Redux or something like that very soon. So yes, you have to. For your own projects, you might not need to. For your first 5 projects, you might not need to. Don't worry about it. Just create things, learn JavaScript. But down the line, you might have to. Vivek, sir, generally people advise that don't use Apollo and Redux together with your GraphQL backend for state management. They prefer Apollo alone with GraphQL. Why is it so? Because, my dear, so the history of Apollo is Apollo uses Redux. So Apollo 2.0, which was, yeah, if you see Apollo 1.x, yes, this is the old Apollo docs. So it itself told to use the Redux, combine, reducer, compose, whatnot, all of these things using connect. And so in this case, Apollo used to work with Redux. If you want to check this out, let me put this link here. Okay, but now if you go to Apollo now, uh, if you go to Apollo now, then it does not use Redux. Now if you go to state management with Apollo, state management with Apollo. Tanvi, to your question again, if you need a global state management solution, try to first work with context and use state, and then if your code grows, or it will grow like personal project, it's hard to grow, but then you will understand the pain of it, and maybe then start learning Redux. But if you're aiming for an interview, I would say just learn Redux, make 2 3 apps, it's fine. um, yeah, so to answer Vivek's question is, now you don't need this to manage a local state. Now Apollo has inbuilt Redux kind of thing, so you can look into this. So that's why people say that don't use both together, because now you can do this without Redux. If there are no more questions, thank you for joining the stream. Let's take a break and let's try and write some Redux after some time. Bye bye.